Welcome to the Developing Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Developing Life Podcast, where we explore the journeys of creators and changemakers shaping the world. Today, we're diving into the story of a true creative phoenix, Heather Krank. Heather has designed immersive experiences for some of the world's biggest brands and venues across the globe, with her work being featured at iconic locations like the Guggenheim, Meow Wolf, and the Supernova Animation Festival. Her clients have included Adobe, Google, Prologis, the Ben Design Conference, and most recently, Latro. Heather is a sought-after speaker, having taken the stage at events like the Groundbreakers Summit in Denver, Colorado, and the University of Southern California's Creative Summit, Riptide. But Heather's story goes far beyond her impressive resume. In this episode, we'll explore how she's embraced courage and community to rise above challenges, step into her creative power, and lead with purpose. Heather's journey also offers profound insights into navigating moments of doubt and finding resilience, even when the creative path feels uncertain. If you've ever wondered how to summon confidence in your own creative journey or how to align innovation with your values, this conversation will speak directly to you. So, let's dive into Heather's remarkable story and discover the lessons she's learned along the way. Heather, welcome. It is amazing to have you. How are you today?
I'm good. That was a fantastic intro. Wow.
It's a fantastic resume, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more about it, as I'm sure everyone else here today with us is. So before we get into it, I would love to say, first of all, it is an honor to sit down with you and actually give you space to speak. I have never seen anyone more supported by their communities. Everyone is just a fan of you, impressed by your work, your cadence, and your confidence. And that's what we're here to talk about today. But before we begin, I would love to give you the floor to talk a little bit about your upbringing, your history, and the things that ultimately led you to a love for design.
Oh, wow. That's a big question. Okay. Let's chunk it down. So upbringing. So I was born in Goleta, California, and I spent the first, I'm going to say about 8 years of my life moving around a lot. And then at around 8, at that point, I was living in San Jose. My parents had divorced, and I had a new stepfather. And we moved to Fairfield, Iowa. We drove cross country in a Volkswagen van with no heat.
Wow.
My sisters and I were in the back in a sleeping bag, just shivering, taking turns sticking our hands on each other's backs while we squealed because it was so cold. And we went to join the TM community in Fairfield, Iowa. We were there for about a year, and then our house burned to the ground. We lost everything. And we were squatting in our landlord's house for about a week while they were on vacation. They didn't know we were there. And it was a really insane time. So I went to go live with my grandmother, who was in Eugene, Oregon, for a while. Okay. And my mom grew up in Bend, and all of my family's here, like every single one. So that's how I ended up in Bend, Oregon, was my mom's family was helping us recover from the fire. So that's like we'll say that's birth to about age 10.
That is so much to deal with just by the age of 10. You think that that's like a lifetime of experiences, but wow. So you ended up in Bend, and I know that the Bend Design Conference has played a huge role in your life. Before that, I know that you actually went to art school. So can you talk to us about some of those formative years, you moving into design? Was it something that you really enjoyed in, the middle school, high school area that carried on, or did you find that love for design a little bit later in life?
Oh, way later. So really? I was really focused in theater and dance, really, really focused. And I'm going to back up a little bit. So I have 2 degrees because who wouldn't want 2 degrees and to go into heavy debt? So the first degree I had was I have a double major, double minor. So it's theater and postmodern literature.
Oh.
I don't know what I was thinking. And then a minor in psychology and art. I think I really wanted to be involved with theater, arts, dance, and art in general, but my family was not they were not having it. So,
Yeah.
and they were helping me with that degree. So I had to kind of walk a fine line between what they felt was how can I put this? A solid choice for a living versus what I really wanted in theater was,
Yeah.
that was not going to happen. So I even studied costume design for a while. And then when I graduated, I moved to Seattle and I started performing in a bunch of theater groups for a while.
Really?
Yes. But I was starving and having to having to work in the day. I was working as a secretary for a while, and then eventually I landed a job as a legal secretary for the Attorney General of Washington. And I was really good at it. Weirdly, really good. But actually the things that made me good at that job kind of are the same. It's the same thing that makes me so good at design. So, I was working at the Attorney General's office. They wanted to promote me. I was having this like big kind of crisis because a lot of the cases I worked on involved really intense violence. So I had to split shift between adult and child services and a homicide.
Wow.
And on the homicide, so in the morning I was in adult and child services, and then after lunch I'd go to a different floor and work in homicide. And I worked with some FBI people. I would pull records for people who were in jail. I would go through all their mail. I would do all this stuff. So the last case I worked on was three 15-year-old kids who had been killed in a car accident, and they were suing the state. And the imagery was so graphic. And simultaneously, I was working on a case involving a sexual predator who they were trying to keep from ever getting out of prison. So I was going through this person's mail, and I started having these really demonic dreams.
Really?
And I just realized I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do it. My family was so freaking excited. They were like, yes, she's finally practical. She's doing something really realistic. She's going to make money. We're going to buy her a suit. And, I spent a week really doing some very deep soul searching, and I quit.
So what is that moment like for you? I imagine that being a psychology major and someone who is studying emotion, that you're even more aware of kind of how you're moving through things and trying to analyze them and to truly make a rational choice. And it's a conundrum that we all deal with, the starving artist, lifestyle. And especially when we have a supportive family, it's so easy for that to shift our journey a little bit easier than if our family was uncaring, because we do have their support and we have their excitement. So can you speak a little bit more as to, what was going through your mind when you made that decision, maybe some of the fears that you experienced, and then we'll get into how maybe your confidence helped you push through that.
Yeah. I just became acutely aware of how sensitive I am to other people's pain.
Yeah.
I always kind of knew it, but in that environment, even though intellectually it was a match, I'm just way too sensitive. And it was so clear to me that I didn't feel like I had a choice. Like I did have a choice, but I felt like I can't do this. There's no way. I just was hitting such an internal limitation. I wouldn't even call it courage. I would just say it's just one of those moments of a lot of clarity, like that I can't. So I I literally, I was in Seattle and I was trying to figure out what I should do. And I just decided that I was going to move to Oakland. There were a lot of jobs there. I had a friend there. So I just moved.
Wow.
I left everything and I started over. I'm kind of one of those personality types where something doesn't really fit. I'm okay with changing. I'm okay with seeing what's next. I'm kind of internally, I'm kind of built like that.
Yeah. Well, you might call it clarity, but that definitely is confidence on so many levels, because you're right. We all have these big choices presented to us, and sometimes, despite the clarity, the hardest thing to do is to take action because of fear of the unknown. But you found your confidence, you made this move, and I'm assuming that you leveraged your feelings and your emotions and being able to truly see people to build this amazing design career that you've had. So after you made this move, what was the progression that ultimately led you to where you are today?
So when I landed in Oakland, I was couch surfing, trying to figure out where I was going to live, because to find an apartment in Oakland is really hard. The general rule of thumb at that time is it would take about 3 months. Wow. Eventually, I found a converted porch that I was living in.
Wait, what is that? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so it's the back of a house.
Okay.
It's a porch.
Okay.
It's probably maybe 500 or 600 square feet.
Okay.
With no heat, and it even had some areas where you could see daylight coming through the walls, but it was all I could afford. And then there was like mice and rodents hunting in the walls at night. It was what you would expect of someone who had no money and moved to Oakland. So I landed a job at Mulberry Neckwear, which they create amazing fabric design, and I loved it. I was like, wow, I really like design. I brought in, when I applied for this job, I brought in all my old art portfolio and had to really sell myself. And I just would love to say how much I appreciate my creative director, Tanya, at the time. She took a chance on me and allowed me to grow. Oh. And everyone who worked there went to California College of Arts. Mm. So I started kind of moving in this world of people who were really focused on design. And I loved it, and I decided I could do that. I'm going to put myself back through school. So I went and did a portfolio review at California College of Arts, and they accepted me into the graphic design program. They have a second degree program. Okay. So if you have a previous degree in art, in theater, you can transfer all those credits over. So, how many art history classes does someone need to take? I mean, so a lot of them transferred. So I only had to do about 2.5 years there, which was great.
Wow, that's amazing that you didn't have to start all over again. You kind of got to like fast track through there. So how did your immersion into art school and just your beginning of this sense of community? I'd definitely love to delve deeper into it the further we move on into your journey, but I know that it has been just one of those big catalysts that has helped amplify you. So, I mean, what were some of the most meaningful experiences or influences? You just mentioned your creative director, Tanya. Beyond her through this journey, what really stuck with you and inspired you to move to this next level?
Oh, man. So I start design school, and it's really hard. It's really hard because it's very mathematical, and I am not a mathematical person. Yeah. And I'm failing typography, and I'm like in it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is such an expensive school. Have I just made the mistake of my life? And I was fighting to like not fail. And then I had a teacher who really took me under his wing. His name is Eric Hyman, who we've had on this podcast. And I was in his class, and his class was just absolutely brutal. He took me, as you probably can imagine, having
This is going straight to him.
Hi, Eric. So I'm in his class, and he pulled me aside, and it was the first semester, and he said, "Your image making ability is off the chart. I want to put 3 posters from this class on display as, some of his best work."
Yeah.
I had one of those in there.
Wow.
And I was so surprised. And he just said, "I want you to think about the type like you think about the imagery you're creating, because you have it. You're just getting caught up in the idea of it as something you don't understand or something separate from what you already know." So he really opened the door, and he pushed me very hard. And I really grew. And then I started a motion design class. I was just curious. And I met Jim Kinney. Jim Kinney is also another one of my angels who saw potential in me and really took me under his wing. I had a natural ability, of course, because of all the dance and theater, all that with storytelling, time-based medium, time-based expression, and I kind of fell in love with it. And it's because of Jim Kinney that I applied to the Adobe Awards. He would pass me in the hall, and he would say, "Enter it." And I'm like, "I'm not going to enter. I don't," I had no confidence at the time. And he contacted Adobe and had one of the representatives show up and sit down with me and help me fill out the application.
Hey.
And then I won.
Oh.
I won the Adobe Award. And it was this moment where it was so big for me. I couldn't absorb it. And I remember flying to New York City, and they put me in this fancy hotel, and I'm on this award stage, and there's Sagmeister and Chip Kidd and like these big names, and it's like surreal to me. Like I can't absorb what's happening. And then I met Linda Decker, and she came up to me, and I was, I'm so introverted, much better now, but back then, oh my God. And I was trying to avoid people. And she came running up to me, and she just said, "Oh my God, your work. We just sat through a whole bunch of stuff, but your work is amazing. Never work for anybody else. You need to intern with somebody, like Scorsese." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Wow.
So it really kind of set this awareness that I could do something bigger, that I had potential to go farther. And I think if that hadn't have happened, I would have fallen back into a lot of self-doubt and not had the chutzpah, to really push forward.
And so now the awareness is there. Was this the moment that you would define as truly stepping into your power? And I ask because I know that as creatives, sometimes we can have the receipts in front of us, we can have people cheering for us, but it really doesn't click until we accept it and want it for ourselves. And it seems like, maybe this was an open door, or was this really the beginning of your journey? And if it wasn't the defining moment, can you tell us a little bit more about what was?
So because this was in some ways, I feel like so assisted, I feel like the confidence for me didn't really show up until I went through hard things. This sort of, okay, so let me just back up for a second. So this experience, so from here, my work ended up in the Guggenheim.
Okay.
And then at the time, there was an amazing animation festival called ResFest. ResFest The owner of that grabbed me, and I was in a bunch of interviews and on the radio and whatever, alternative Berkeley radio. And they premiered my work, and it went around the world. And all of this amazing stuff was opening. And then I graduated and I couldn't find work. And it's like reaching this pinnacle and then not being able to sustain it. And that went on for a very long time. In that period, which was really, really hard, I feel like it was a survival tactic to learn how to develop my confidence, to learn how to keep fighting. And it built this like inner fire and strength so that I was able to stand up against all kinds of adversity that if it had been easy, if everything had just opened then, I don't think I'd be sitting here in front of you.
Wow, that is so powerful. Can you maybe speak to some of those moments of adversity that you found? I mean, one of the questions that I'm very concerned about, like we've gone through, you're in Oakland, you're in school. It seems like up until this point, it's not just artistically that you've been fighting, but it's for everything. It's being willing to fight to make your dream come true and to step into this life. So now your confidence is here. You're willing to fight. You're starting to make moves and fighting against this adversity. So can you talk a little bit more as to how both your professional and personal life changed as a result of you, in essence, becoming this creative phoenix and, rising from the ashes into your power?
Wow, that's a big question. Okay, so let me think about how do I want to answer that. So I'm just going to give you Cliff Notes because there's a lot that goes on here, but we'll just say I went through a lot of sexism at this point. I had an opportunity. So the teacher I spoke about, Jim Kinney, had set me up with a potential internship, right? This is just an internship, not a job, nothing, just an internship. I was really nervous. I showed up. I had the Adobe award behind me. It was, at that time, it was rotoscoping, which is no longer a thing. I could have done that with my eyes closed, like total boring production work.
Yeah.
I'm interviewed by 3 men who are totally coked up, like intense. And I hadn't really, so innocent. I hadn't really been around that before. And my palms are sweating. And they offer me to be their secretary with the potential to move into an internship. I had so many qualifications behind me. And to get to that interview, at that point, I'd been digging through my couch looking for enough change to get over the bridge and pay the bridge toll. My gas tank was almost on empty. It took everything I had to show up to that. And it was such a massive rejection. So what I've learned from, and there've been a lot of, I've been up against an awful lot of sexism in my industry. What I've learned from this is that it's okay to have to redefine your values and who you are and where you're pulling strength from. And if something doesn't open up, even if it's painful, it doesn't mean your life's over. It doesn't mean you're not going to go where you're supposed to go, but it might look really different.
Yeah.
So it was this long journey of who am I? What's important to me? What am I attached to? Do I need to be attached to that? Is that important? Where are those thoughts coming from? Who taught me that this is the right path to take to be able to be successful? What is success? And it was this huge period of deep, deep questioning about what do I really want? And it was just this constant refining, and like the world would grind me down and I'd build back up and be like, no, that's not it. Grind me down, build me back up. No, that's not quite it. And I would pull everything I had into these positions. I would just give it all of myself. What that meant was that there were some really dark nights of the soul to have that level of commitment to the work and to constantly be rejected. And even that word, I'm just going to redefine it, rejection. what was I being rejected from, and why did I feel like that? When I think about it now, I realize it wasn't a rejection. It was just an alignment problem. And so I've learned a lot about alignment and commitment and boundaries.
That
answers your question.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's so unfortunate that so many brands, companies, and individuals lose out on amazing talent and great experiences and success just because of the inappropriate and confining view they have of the world, and also are so ignorant of the damage that does to people who might not be as resilient and confident in themselves as you. So definitely thank you so much for sharing that. And it seems like all of the continual readjustments finally led to some opportunities that you were very much aligned with, including your portfolio of just incredible clients. So can you speak a little bit more to that, how some of those dark times and really choosing to remain true to yourself led to amazing experiences and interactions, and just kind of what opportunities have emerged, since you began embracing your confidence fully?
So I think it's, I really trust my instincts about people. When I get a certain feeling that this is not a right fit, even though it looks like the most amazing thing, I'm really willing to walk away from it. Things aren't always 100% clear. So that having that internal compass is super important. And trusting that is a large part of my confidence, because I have so much experience of not trusting that and finding out what happens. So it's sort of a internal integrity thing. Because of that, I kind of just show up where I feel like I need to show up and trust there's a reason for that. And that's led to some incredible connections with people that I couldn't have possibly imagined. My understanding of what's possible is pretty limited. So if I trust my instincts and I just show up and I'm open, incredible things happen. During the pandemic, I had this urge to create this animated piece for myself. And I just did it. I had this really evocative dream. So I was like, I need to make this thing a reality. So I did. And I saw this call on, I can't remember, it's a call for animation online, and I just applied. I was like, it's a pandemic. I'm just going to just throw it out there. So immediately I get this email, and it's from Ivar Zeal, who used to be the head of Denver Digerati. And Ivar and I know each other, but it's because he used to run my favorite art gallery in Denver. So he doesn't know me like this. And he's like, oh my God, I had no idea you did this. And it launched this whole conversation and relationship with him. And eventually that led me to Meow Wolf, which was phenomenal, where they had some of my work there for a couple of years. And I got paid for it, which was just like mind-blowing experience. Wow. And I had this opportunity to have my work. It was actually during the Black Lives Matters riots and craziness that was going on in the world. I got to have a piece projected onto the Denver clock tower. Wow. And what was so beautiful about that is I had something I really wanted to say, and I got to say it publicly. I got to address what was happening, and I got to take a part in having an influence on the people who walk by. So there's just been like these things just because I went into an art gallery at one point, and then I applied, and the two worlds came together.
Man. Well, so now that you're a little bit further into your creative journey, have stepped into a space as an educator and have so many of these successes under your belt, before we move on, are there 2 or 3 pieces of advice maybe that you would like to give to all of these new creatives who are entering the industry, with it being, more intimidating than it's ever been before, with the rise of AI and just all of these ethics questions? Like, what what advice do you have for creatives who want to work with these big brands, but just really don't have any idea where to start?
Well, I think I personally, and I know you're like this too, I love technology and I'm very curious when new tools come out to play with.
Yeah.
And I get there's been a lot of backlash in the way that AI has been trained. I completely understand it. But I'm also aware of some of the history of AI, how long it's actually been around, and that it's not going away. So I really encourage everybody to understand what AI is. When new technology comes out, instead of just rejecting it, dig a little, do a little research, understand what's happening. I think when people are reactive, it really can work against them and it can prohibit their growth and learning. And then you end up, out of a career in a few years. I think for people, young people just coming into their career, right now things are changing so fast, and 2025 looks like it's going to be the most disruptive year yet, especially with Elon Musk moving into a position of power. We are looking at rapid acceleration of what you've just seen in 2024. I suspect the tools will grow and change very quickly. So I think hold on to your humanity, hold on to your skill, hold on to your imagination, your understanding of culture. AI will never be able to understand the human experience fully. That is going to be your superpower moving forward as the tool that you use to express yourself changes. I do think right now we're seeing some, it's sort of like the people who jumped into AI first and used it instead of developing their skill, but used the AI as a way to kind of leapfrog. They're starting to become more common as other people learn, and then these people are standing out less, and they're losing some ground. So I would encourage people, develop your eye, develop your skill, understand what makes good art, what makes good design, what makes things interesting, how to tell a good story. None of that is ever going to go away because that's the human experience. And then, as the tools change, if you familiarize yourself with the basic idea of how AI works, if you bring all of that skill to it, you're going to have a place where your voice will be unique and stand apart, and that's so important.
It definitely is. And so I'd like to maybe expand this discussion just a little bit. We'll break it into two parts. So before AI, I would love to know how you balance your artistic integrity with collaboration, when working on motion design, when storytelling, and maybe some of the happiest moments that have presented themselves where you have been able to use your unique human experience in art and theater and kind of like combine all of that to create something that's truly meaningful to you.
Ooh. Well, I have to thank the Ben Design Conference for allowing me to be able to have some room to play. I was able to create some work for them that was very, I'm just going to say edgy, and pushed the envelope and actually scared people a little bit as I was addressing what I saw coming with AI before it was maybe, in at least where I live, kind of a popular idea or understanding that our future was going to look different. I think when I work with communities that allow me the space and they trust me enough to experiment and play, I'm able to do some of my best work. Denver Digerati was one of those places. I worked with them several years in a row. Meow Wolf was one of those places. Ben Design was one of those places. Yeah. I really love to have a platform, and I love when people give me a lot of room, and I love to collaborate with other creative people because I feel like where I'm weak, someone else is strong, and then we can kind of go back and forth and create a piece of work that maybe I would never have thought of myself. Most recently, my husband and I did the Reno Art Fair, and it was so fun because I took AI work And then I brought it back in and painted it by hand. People, I actually can do that. And I used the mistakes that AI was making in my paintings because I think that that's a really interesting thing, and it's kind of where we learn and where the real creativity comes from. So some of my work, the people had 6 fingers, but it's also a comment on the technology that's emerging. And then my husband was creating a lot of sculptural aspects. He kind of created these butterflies that are sort of reticulated, so they look like they're going forward and back at the same time. It's hard for me to express it. But so we really did this amazing collaboration. And when we were there, people were walking around the art fair and they would literally stop at our booth and they're like, wow, you guys are crazy. Which is fun, Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a compliment as a creative to stand out. So, in terms of platforms giving you all the space that you require and giving you freedom and trusting you, I know that one of your most recent experiences has been with Latro.
Yes.
It's something that you've been extremely passionate about. It's something that's making moves. I've enjoyed seeing your work and your galleries there. So can you take us on this journey a little bit as to what Latro is, the type of platform that you're supporting, and what the ethical use of AI means to you and looks like for you moving into the future?
So Dave Zambroni, I think is how you say his last name. He used to be an animator for Disney. Wow. And somehow he found me and he asked if he could talk to me about potentially working with Latro. So we had an interview. I love him. What a beautiful human. Just absolutely adore him. And they brought me on board to train their AI. They're developing an AI system that is trained on artist work like myself. So I created several different specific styles for them based on my own work. And it's kind of like if you've ever sold your work on stock photography or whatever, it's a nice way to use work that went to the design graveyard and have it resurrected in a new way. So I spent quite a bit of time with them, helping them develop certain styles. And they just went through another big, iteration of this AI platform that they're creating. The focus of their entire company is the ethical use of AI. So artists train the AI. I am paid to do that. Anytime someone uses one of my styles, I'm paid. I get a what's the word?
Royalty.
Royalty. Yeah, a royalty. And my name is on every single generation. So it's a really different model and a different way of training that respects artists, respects your work, and you actually get paid for doing it. They are continuing to expand their repertoire of artists that they have working with them. And everybody who works there works in the industry, is some kind of animator or designer, and they know how hard and intense the industry is. And I feel like that's the reason they created this. They saw what was happening and they're like, it doesn't have to be unethical.
Yeah. And what does that mean to you as an artist? Because, clearly we've gone through this AI revolution and we have seen some of the more capitalist creatives who have moved in and it's just a tool and it doesn't matter how it's used or who it's stealing from or what it's about. And it's just out there. And it really is almost more of a detriment to take into consideration ethical standards and respecting other people's work and making sure that it's done right. So what has been the result in how you feel about your work and how you feel viewed as an artist as a result of platforms like this?
So I think, artists are always, I'm doing air quotes here, influenced by other artists, by other movements. There's been a whole history technologically of when we jumped, like when we went from painting to photography and when, artists were using photos to paint from and it was considered like, cheating. the difference now is so much of our life is online and sort of up for grabs.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it's a more intimate borrowing of people's work. And I have some conflict with the way the AI was initially trained. I get the move fast and break things is like a big part of the tech world. And we've done that for a while. But I don't think we really thought about the cost of operating like that, not only to humanity in general, but to the environment and the way that we're structuring our future. So I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm also aware that AI does not take one image and replicate it exactly. It's taking a million images and then bringing all these little pixels together to form what you're asking it to form. But it does make it easy to really copy, which I have a huge, don't copy people. Please don't do that.
Yeah, don't
do that. Nobody wants to see their work like sloppily created by somebody else. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
But we all can be influenced by each other, and we can use this technology to our advantage. And I would like to see more rebel people like Lytro coming into the fore and creating, their own platforms. Also, Blue Sky just did the same thing as a counter to X. If you see something happening that you feel like is taking advantage of people, create your own platform. And instead of saying, I don't want that technology, I'm not going to use it because that's going to move you out of a position of power, we need more people to step into the arena that's already been set. It's not going to go backwards, and create your own voice there, and then allow other people to join you so that we don't have a bunch of billionaires in charge and making decisions for all of humanity. That is a future I personally do not want.
No, that is such a powerful reminder that the tools that exist are just that, tools, and there are always going to be negative, harmful uses for them, that there are always going to be positive, beautiful uses for them as well. And we, caring creators who care about, ethical integration and about maintaining artistic integrity, have to be the ones that step up and kind of lead the humane revolution of it, or otherwise, as you said, it's really going to be led by people who don't have anyone's best interests at heart. So
that's right.
That's beautiful. Now we are approaching the 45-minute mark, so at this time we'll go ahead and we'll give our audience a moment. If you want to start dropping questions into the chat for Heather, please feel free to do so. I need to check the chat. There are probably already a few here. But in the meantime, I do want to kind of come full circle. We've talked about your journey, your influences up to the point that you're at now. I've been interacting with you for a little over a year, working together with you for just under a year, and I have never seen such an outpouring of love and respect and support and just kindness with every word that people have to say, about you. So taking your last year, a couple of years, or benchmarking from the time that you've really considered yourself successful, what influences, what individuals, what experiences have really, meant the most to you, and including your husband, Greg. I've seen a lot of your collaborative work, and I know that even having that creative support at home really just has to make a world of difference to you. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to Greg. Yeah, he's always, when things have been really, really tough, he's always stood behind me. Because we're both artists, I feel like we really understand each other. So we're cheerleaders for each other. And I'm super grateful. I've also had I just love people. I love people. I'm an introvert, so I have to take it slow and I need a lot of breaks, but I love people and I love creative community, and I just can't help myself. When I see people being creative and doing incredible work, I just want everybody to know. And this was part of my joy with working with the Bend Design Conference on their programming committee, was I got to find people, incredible people that maybe didn't have the spotlight yet. And I could kind of get a sense, they're gonna blow up and I better get in there and to just watch them and watch their evolution. I'm incredibly also grateful to have so many amazing people around me. I'm grateful, very grateful to Chris Stowe and to Anna Lee. They really took me under their wing and helped me so much. And of course, Linda Decker. I just have like this string of, it's like this string of people who I feel like we're linked arm in arm, and we just keep expanding out. And there are just so many incredible people in this world. I'm just so grateful. If you show up with your heart and with a generous spirit and with a lot of curiosity, it's amazing the way people will show up for you, interact with you, and the things that can happen. I'm just incredibly grateful. I mean, if you asked me when I first started, if this would have happened, I couldn't have imagined what's happened. When I ask people, hey, will you come on the Developing Life podcast, or will you come to the Bend Design Conference? Nobody has ever said no. And I just after years of rejection, to have that level of connection with people, I think that that's like the bread and butter of what I feel success is. It really is about the connection and the community. There's a million tools. There's a million organizations. There's a lot of hierarchy and alpha and whatever. But at the end of the day, we're really just all people. Yeah. And for me, that's a juicy part.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a powerful reminder, especially the statement that, I feel like a lot of us make it when we get to the point in our journey where the tides have, shifted, the scales have moved, and we're on that side where everything is good. It truly is something that you can't imagine. So this is such a testament to resilience, to pushing through, and to really moving towards the things that you're aligned with instead of accepting something lesser. That is so amazing. We do have some questions rolling in. Okay. We've got one from Sam and our friend Hannah. Heather, you're such a beautiful and incredible soul. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You've shared a lot about adversity and how you've been able to overcome it. How has adversity influenced your creative process?
Ooh. It's made it a lot deeper. I think that I would have created from a place of needing approval in the past. But when things become really, really difficult, it's stripped away that part of me that was outward seeking. And this is also part of the building confidence thing of, I don't really care what people think. Like, people, some have been great and some have not been great. And how much of that is mine and how much of that is somebody else's. And distilling that down has had a huge impact on what I create, how I create, how honest I am about where I am. I'm not wearing armor. I'm not trying to pretend I'm somebody I'm not. I don't want to prove anything to you. And that really allows me to go deep into the work, into the creative work.
I love that. And so I kind of want to ask the B part of that question is, how has adversity and your being aware of the human condition and understanding of other people's pain and the struggles that they're enduring, how has that led you to community, and how does that impact how you consider others, creatively and just as you move through life?
Yeah, I'm a very empathetic type of person, and as we noted, very sensitive, as I discovered. So how I move through life I used to wear a lot of armor because of the sensitivity, but that really wasn't serving me, because it actually created a barrier between myself and other people that later I had to deal with and overcome, and deal with the pain that was underneath that. So now when I move through life, it's not armor, it's boundaries. And it's knowing when that, like I said earlier, it's an alignment issue. When is something a good fit and when is it not a good fit? And it's not about judgment, like that this person's good or this person's bad. It's just, is this an alignment? Am I in integrity when I make this choice and when I say yes to this? Or is this because I'm seeking someone's approval, or do I feel like this is going to get me something, some kind of gratification that doesn't have anything to do with who I am personally? So I'm just more conscious of the choices I make.
Yeah. I think that's extremely powerful and also gives so much grace in the way that you're thinking about it, because looking at it from an alignment standpoint doesn't burn bridges. It doesn't make someone out to be, lesser or better than you are. It literally just accepts the person and the experience as it is. And it also leaves room for something to shift and adjust and for there to be alignment later on in the future. So that is that's an incredibly powerful and kind way to look at things. So as we're waiting for our final questions to come in, I'd like to give you these last few moments. This is our next to last episode before we move into 2025. Do you have any predictions, any things that are truly exciting to you? Or do you have any words of wisdom or just thanks for our audience as we are all about to basically wipe the slate clean of 2024 and move into a new year?
So 2025, I'm thinking a lot about this year. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be heavily disruptive. Last year, between January through May, there was in my industry, in the motion design industry, there was a massive amount of disruption. And a lot of people are out of work. I think 2025 community is going to be hugely important. Spending time and connecting with people that you feel support you. I wrote about this recently. Things are moving so fast and there's so much disruption. It's hard for me to know what 2025 is going to look like. There are a lot of really unpredictable elements, and some part of me has some trepidation about that, but I did suggest the other day to my husband that we are going to exist in our little bubble and we're going to thrive despite what we see happening, despite the disruption, and that if we come together in love and community and support and generosity, I think it's going to be a better year. And I also heard RuPaul say the other day that there's a lot of darkness in the world. Look at it, but don't stare at it, because it will make you crazy. And the only antidote to that kind of pain and darkness is joy. So not saying be a Pollyanna, but just set your life up in a way where you're taking care of yourself, and so you can be sustained and sort of enveloped in your own strength and integrity, because next year is going to be a big one.
Yeah. And at the core of it, that's what confidence is all about. It is the acceptance of yourself and the belief that no matter how things shift around you, you were worthy and you were going to come out victorious, and things will be okay as long as you remained honest and transparent and have a mission that's full of integrity and happiness. So.
And I would add, victorious doesn't always look like financial success.
Yeah. That is true. What does it look like?
I think it looks like a life well lived. I think it looks like good, harmonious relationships. I think it looks like hard work. And I think it looks like outcomes that you can stand on and say, I did that.
Yeah. And, ultimately, all of those things do lead to a lot more financial stability. It's just when they're prioritized more than chasing after money, life does become much happier, much more fulfilling, much more connected. Yeah, Those are beautiful words to end with. Well, are there any other questions? If so, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Otherwise, Heather, where can we find you at? There's so many things that you're involved in. So if you want to run us through a list of the things that are most meaningful, important to you, any of the projects that you're working on that you have coming up, I know everyone here and everyone who listens will be eager to support you.
Oh, thank you. You can always find me on Instagram. I'm there under Heather Krank, but I have a business called Cramanti, Crahmanti. It's actually my last name and my husband's last name together. Of course, I'm on Lytra that we were speaking about earlier. You can find me on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads. Of course, I'm on the Developing Life podcast, which if you haven't listened, it's really fabulous. And then next year, I'm continuing to teach classes around Midjourney and AI. So if you're interested in that or you'd like to have me come speak to your group, you can just DM me through any of my socials. I'm also on LinkedIn, Heather Krank. It's, with the last name like Krank, just search Heather Krank and I'm going to come up.
Yeah. We'll make sure on the replays of this video and everywhere it's posted, we've got that little directory as well, just so that you can access Heather in the way that is happiest for you. So it looks like that's all we have for questions. Dr. Ioana, you're more than welcome to join us. You want me to
hello, Dr. Thielsen.
unmute you, and you're more than welcome to start your video.
I could not leave without... Oh. Hold on. Okay. Oh, listen.
Hello.
I'm in my bed. I'm hoping nobody can see that. And it's Florida, so...
Oh, man. It's warm down there.
Yeah, nice. But I just wanted to come and say how much I've loved and appreciated all of you. And I wish I could have been, at more of these wonderful events. But I keep up with everything and all the postings and all this stuff. And you people are my favorite people on the internet.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah. So thank you all. Thank you so much, Heather. You're so awesome. And of course, Deborah, I feel like,
oh my God,
like my little brother that I shine and be bright and brilliant. And of course, True owes me. Oh, we're supposed to make a dance video. I'm still waiting.
Oh. True.
Oh my God.
Here she is.
Oh my God, me. Don't even go there, right? Because we're ready.
Oh, you're not off the hook.
Well, just you guys don't. I think you don't realize the presence you have on the internet, on LinkedIn mostly is where I encounter you. But it's something about the goodness and the generosity and the kindness and all of that stuff that you represent to us. And so we're just so very appreciative. And I know it comes from Heather's. She, like I said in the thing, her heart is way too big for the platform.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, God have chosen a better team to work with.
Oh.
So very glad to have connected with all of you. And I hope we can do some more. Yes. Oh, we owe us each other something.
Yes.
Or what? But
yes.
And so, you're talking about what's coming for next year. And then, I love what you quote RuPaul. Like praise of RuPaul. But yeah, we have to focus on what we want and less on what we don't want, right? And we have to go out there and make it happen. And I think we've learned a lot from 2024 and in the past that we can, because I have a passion that, as you were saying, Heather, that to take AI and to show people what it's meant to be, or the good parts of it, and also that you don't have to use it erroneously to thrive and prosper. There's so much good that can come out of it if you even use it the right way, and so that's thing that I feel. But I'm gonna shut up now because you know me, when I get talking I can't stop. But I had to come on here and say something, even from my bed. Okay, bye.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. And likewise, it has been so amazing to be a part of this community, to develop the audience that we have, to have the support that we have had for this entire year, just being just being new and trying our best. It has made a world of difference, and we have some very big things planned for 2025. We'll send out some updates on those later, but yes, in alignment with Dr. Thiessen, in alignment with Heather's vision, True's, and mine, developing communities of support where we're all connected and accepted and respected and pushed to be our best selves are definitely in the works. So we hope that you all will continue to stick with us, and we are so grateful for you.
And I just want to add, if you don't know who Dr. Thiessen is, please look at her on LinkedIn. She is a genius.
Yeah. She's got some pretty nice dance moves too.
She does.
She does. But no, I guess on that note, Heather, any final words?
Oh, here's to 2025.
Yeah, here's to 2025. Wishing you all just nothing but success and connection. And we are here for you 100%. So thanks for being a part of today's episode. And I think with that, we will conclude. So thanks for being with us so much, Heather. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.